Listen, let me tell you something that a lot of people misunderstand about attraction. People think being unforgettable means being louder, chasing harder, texting more, proving more. But the truth is, the behaviors that create real emotional attachment are usually quiet, powerful, and deeply attractive. And if you do these right, a man doesn't feel forced to stay. He wants to listen. Let me tell you something that a lot of people misunderstand about attraction. People think the secret to making someone stay is giving more, texting more, being available all the time, sacrificing your own plans, and making that person the center of your entire world. But that's not how emotional connection really works. One of the most beautiful behaviors that creates lasting attraction is protecting your own happiness and building a life that feels meaningful with or without someone standing next to you. See, there's something powerful about a person who wakes up excited about their own life. When a woman has goals, interests, routines, passions, and peace that belong to her, not borrowed from someone else, it creates a different kind of energy. It doesn't mean she doesn't care. It doesn't mean she acts cold. It means she understands that love should add to life, not become the entire foundation of it. A lot of people enter relationships and slowly disappear. They stop doing the things that made them feel alive. They stop talking to friends. They stop working toward dreams. They stop enjoying the little parts of life that once made them smile. Everything becomes about the relationship. And at first, that may look romantic. It may even feel good because attention can feel like love. But after a while, pressure starts building. One person becomes responsible for creating all the happiness, excitement, and emotional stability in the relationship, and nobody can carry that forever. But when you continue building your own life, something changes. You become more attractive because your energy changes. You smile differently. You speak differently. You walk into a room differently. There's confidence there, not because someone chose you, but because you chose you yourself too. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who genuinely enjoyed their own life? They had things they cared about. They had goals they talked about with excitement. They laughed freely. They weren't trying to impress anybody. There's something magnetic about that. You naturally want to know more about them because they seem complete, not empty. And here's where people get confused. Protecting your happiness doesn't mean acting unavailable or pretending you don't care. It means you refuse to abandon yourself just to keep somebody interested. If you love reading, keep reading. If you enjoy creating, keep creating. If you have dreams, keep moving toward them. Don't place your identity into somebody else's hands and expect them to hold it safely every day. Because the truth is, when somebody realizes your happiness doesn't disappear the moment they're busy, something shifts. They stop seeing you as someone chasing attention and start seeing you as someone with value. They respect your time more. They appreciate your presence more. They understand that being part of your life is something meaningful, not something guaranteed. The most attractive thing is not perfection. It's not endless availability. It's not proving your worth every day. It's becoming someone who enjoys life deeply and invites others into that joy instead of asking them to create it for you. That kind of energy stays in people's minds. That kind of confidence feels rare. And that's what makes someone unforgettable. Now listen carefully, because this is where a lot of people lose attraction without even realizing it. People think closeness means sharing everything, being available every second, explaining every thought, and making sure there are no unanswered questions. But one of the most beautiful behaviors that keeps attraction alive is understanding the power of mystery. Not games, not confusion, not acting distant. Real mystery that comes from continuing to grow as your own person. See, when people hear the word mystery, they imagine ignoring messages, pretending not to care, or creating emotional confusion. That's not attractive. That creates insecurity. Real mystery is something completely different. It's when someone realizes there's always another layer to discover about you because you never stop becoming more. At the beginning of relationships, everything feels exciting because people are discovering each other. Every conversation reveals something new. Every moment feels fresh. You want to know their favorite memories, their dreams, their opinions, their stories. Discovery creates excitement, but over time, many people accidentally remove that feeling by making their entire life predictable and centered around one person. When you stop growing, stop exploring, stop challenging yourself, and make every moment revolve around someone else, there's nothing new to discover anymore. Attraction doesn't disappear because love disappears. Sometimes attraction fades because curiosity disappears. Think about the people who leave an impression on you. Usually they have something about them that feels alive. They have interests. They keep learning. They have goals they're chasing. They surprise you, not because they're trying to perform, but because they continue becoming. That's the energy that creates lasting attraction. If you always explain everything immediately, always reveal every emotion instantly, and make your entire schedule completely open, you remove space for anticipation. And anticipation matters. There's something beautiful about not knowing every detail all at once. There's excitement in realizing someone still has dreams they haven't finished, ideas they're still developing, and experiences they're creating for themselves. This doesn't mean hiding your feelings. It means protecting your individuality. Keep things in your life that belong to you. Learn something new, develop new skills, go after personal goals, keep conversations that aren't only about the relationship, have experiences that shape who you are. The goal isn't to become unavailable. The goal is to remain interesting, because when someone notices that your world is still expanding, they become more interested in walking beside you. Nobody wants to feel like they've reached the final page of your story after a few weeks. People become emotionally connected when they feel there is still beauty left to discover, and there's another reason this matters. Mystery creates respect. When people see that your life doesn't stop moving just because you're in love, they understand that your presence has value. They realize you're not asking someone to complete you. You're inviting them into a life that already has meaning. The strongest attraction isn't built by revealing everything immediately or making yourself endlessly available. It's created when someone looks at you and thinks, I know this person, but I know there's still more to discover. That feeling keeps attention alive. That feeling creates excitement, and that feeling turns connection into something people keep wanting to return to. Now, let me tell you something people don't talk about enough. Everybody thinks attraction comes from excitement, intensity, constant texting, dramatic moments, and emotional highs. People chase butterflies and think that feeling is what keeps someone connected. But after a while, excitement alone doesn't create attachment. One of the most beautiful behaviors that can make someone deeply connected to you is something much quieter than that. It's peace. And when I say peace, I don't mean being silent all the time or agreeing with everything. I mean becoming someone whose presence feels calm instead of exhausting. Someone who doesn't turn every misunderstanding into a battle. Someone who creates emotional safety instead of emotional pressure. A lot of relationships start with intensity and end with exhaustion. Every conversation becomes a test. Every delayed reply becomes an argument. Every disagreement becomes proof that somebody doesn't care enough. People begin expecting another person to constantly prove their feelings, and over time that creates tension instead of connection. But think about the people you naturally want to spend more time with. Most of the time, they make life feel lighter. You feel comfortable around them. You don't feel judged every second. You don't feel like one mistake will turn into a 2-hour conversation about everything you did wrong. Their energy gives you space to be human. That feeling matters more than people realize. Peace becomes attractive because the world already gives people enough pressure. Work creates pressure. Responsibilities create pressure. Expectations create pressure. Everybody is carrying something. So when somebody enters a relationship and finds a person who brings understanding instead of chaos, it feels different. This doesn't mean avoiding difficult conversations. Healthy relationships still require honesty. But there's a difference between communicating and creating emotional storms. For example, if something hurts you, peace means expressing it clearly instead of making someone guess. It means listening before reacting. It means not treating every uncomfortable moment like a personal attack. It means understanding that people can make mistakes without becoming bad people. And there's something else that makes peaceful people unforgettable. They don't compete for control. Some people think love means winning every argument, proving every point, having the last word, or forcing someone to understand immediately. But real connection isn't built through control. It's built through trust and respect. When someone feels emotionally safe around you, they begin sharing more. They open up more. They become more honest because they're not afraid every conversation will become a conflict. Peace also means knowing when not to chase tension. Not every message needs analysis. Not every quiet moment means something is wrong. Not every mood change is rejection. People remember how they feel around you. If being around someone constantly feels stressful, they eventually protect their energy. But if being around someone feels grounding, calming, and supportive, they naturally want more of that experience. And here's what's interesting. Peace isn't boring. People confuse calm with lack of passion, but they're not the same thing. You can laugh deeply, Love deeply and feel excitement without creating emotional chaos, because at the end of the day, excitement may catch attention for a moment, but peace creates attachment. When someone realizes that being around you feels like relief instead of pressure, they stop seeing your presence as something ordinary. They begin valuing it. They begin missing it. And over time, your energy becomes something they don't want to lose. Now, listen to this carefully, because this is one of those things that people underestimate all the time. Everybody talks about attraction like it's built through appearance, attention, gifts, long conversations, and big romantic moments. But one of the most beautiful behaviors that creates deep emotional connection is something much simpler than that: appreciation. People want to feel seen, not controlled, not worshiped, not constantly praised for every little thing. They want to feel like who they are and what they do actually matters to someone. And the problem is, a lot of people notice effort but never express it. They assume people already know they're valued. They think appreciation is obvious. But over time, silence can make even the strongest effort feel invisible. See, attraction grows when people feel recognized. Think about everyday life. Most people are carrying responsibilities nobody notices. They're solving problems quietly. They're trying their best in ways that never get applause. They're showing up even when they're tired. And when someone finally notices, not because they want something back, but because they genuinely see the effort, it creates something powerful. Appreciation isn't about saying thank you all day long. It's deeper than that. It's paying attention. It's noticing someone stayed patient in a difficult moment. It's recognizing when they made time for you. It's acknowledging growth. It's saying, I noticed what you did, without waiting for a special occasion. And here's what people miss. Appreciation makes people feel safe to continue being themselves. When people feel unseen, they slowly stop trying. Not because they stop caring, but because effort without recognition becomes exhausting. But when someone feels valued, they naturally invest more energy. They become more open, more present, more connected. That doesn't mean you should flatter people constantly or ignore bad behavior. Appreciation isn't pretending everything is perfect. It's choosing to notice what deserves recognition instead of only reacting to mistakes. A lot of relationships fall into a pattern where people only speak up when something goes wrong. You forgot this. You didn't do that. Why didn't you call? Why don't you understand? And after a while, the relationship becomes a place where people feel evaluated instead of appreciated. Now imagine something different. Imagine being around someone who notices your effort, someone who remembers small things, someone who says they appreciate your consistency, your kindness, your support, your growth. That energy feels different because it creates emotional warmth. People remember how they feel around you. If someone feels constantly criticized, they begin protecting themselves. But if someone feels appreciated, they become more comfortable showing who they really are. And appreciation creates something else that's incredibly attractive. It removes competition. A healthy connection isn't two people trying to prove who gives more or who sacrifices more. It becomes two people recognizing each other's value. That's where emotional closeness starts, because when someone feels appreciated, they stop asking themselves, do I matter here? And start feeling secure enough to connect deeply. And appreciation doesn't always require big speeches. Sometimes it's a simple acknowledgement. Sometimes it's noticing effort that nobody else notices. Sometimes it's giving attention instead of assumptions. You'd be surprised how rare that is. People are used to being corrected. People are used to being expected to perform. But being genuinely appreciated for who they are and how they show up, that stays with people. Because at the end of the day, people don't become emotionally attached only because they are loved. They become attached because they feel understood, respected, and valued. And when someone consistently feels that around you, your presence starts becoming associated with something people are always searching for, a place where they feel seen. Now, let me tell you something that people usually learn much later than they should. A lot of people believe attraction grows when you become more flexible, more available, and more willing to accept anything just to keep somebody interested. They think lowering standards makes relationships easier. They think saying yes all the time proves love. But one of the most beautiful behaviors that creates deep respect and lasting attraction is having standards and staying connected to your own value. And before you misunderstand this, having standards does not mean acting superior, demanding perfection, or expecting people to read your mind. Standards are not walls. They are not punishment. Standards simply mean you know what you are willing to accept and what you are not willing to lose about yourself in order to keep a relationship. Too many people make this mistake. They meet someone they really like and slowly start changing everything. They cancel plans, ignore personal goals, stay quiet when something hurts them, accept disrespect because they're afraid speaking up will push the other person away. They start shrinking themselves in order to make room for somebody else. But here's the problem. When you abandon yourself to keep someone, you often lose the very qualities that made you attractive in the first place. People are naturally drawn to individuals who have a sense of identity, someone who knows what matters to them, someone who respects their own time, energy, and emotions. Not because they're difficult to deal with, but because they show that their life has value. Standards create clarity. When you communicate clearly and stay consistent, people don't have to guess who you are. They know what matters to you. They know how to treat you. And surprisingly, that creates comfort. A lot of people think boundaries scare others away. Healthy boundaries don't push healthy people away. They help relationships become stronger. For example, having standards may mean saying, I want communication instead of disappearing. It may mean not accepting repeated disrespect. It may mean protecting time for your own goals. It may mean refusing to turn love into constant sacrifice. That's not selfish, that's self-respect. And self-respect changes the energy of every relationship. Because once people see that your happiness, identity, and values are important to you, they begin treating them as important too. There's another thing people don't realize. People feel safer with someone who has standards. At first, that sounds strange, but think about it. Someone who constantly changes to avoid losing others becomes unpredictable. They say yes when they mean no. They hide disappointment. They build resentment silently. Eventually, emotions explode. But someone with healthy standards communicates openly. They express needs early. They stay honest. That creates trust, and trust creates connection. Now, this doesn't mean every disagreement becomes a boundary conversation. Life requires flexibility. Relationships require compromise, but compromise should never mean losing your self-respect. If something matters deeply to you, speak about it. If something hurts, say it respectfully. If something doesn't align with your values, don't ignore it, hoping things magically improve, because attraction grows where respect exists, and respect begins with how you treat yourself. People notice when somebody values their own time. People notice when somebody doesn't chase approval. People notice when somebody can care deeply without becoming dependent. That energy feels different. You stop appearing like someone asking for permission to be loved and start becoming someone who understands that relationships should be mutual. And here's the part nobody talks about enough. Standards make love healthier, not harder. When somebody knows you have values, boundaries, and self-respect, they understand your presence is meaningful. Not because you're impossible to replace, but because you're not willing to replace yourself just to keep someone else. That kind of confidence creates respect. And respect has a way of turning attraction into something deeper, stronger, and much harder to forget. Now, listen carefully, because this may be one of the most overlooked truths about attraction and connection. A lot of people spend so much energy trying to become impressive that they forget how to become real. They think emotional attachment happens because they say all the right things, look perfect, never make mistakes, always appear confident, and constantly try to fit the image of what somebody else wants. But one of the most beautiful behaviors that creates deep attraction is much simpler than people expect. Real connection beats trying to impress. See, in the beginning, a lot of people perform. They show only the polished version of themselves. They say what sounds attractive. They hide opinions. They act more relaxed than they really are. They laugh at things they don't enjoy. They become experts at appearing perfect, and for a while that performance may work. People might be interested. They might stay curious. But eventually something always happens. Real life shows up because nobody can perform forever. Eventually stress appears. Bad days happen. Disagreements happen. Fear appears. And if somebody built connection through performance instead of honesty, they start feeling pressure to maintain an impossible version of themselves. That's exhausting. But authenticity creates something different. When somebody feels they're talking to a real person instead of a carefully managed image, they relax. Think about the people you feel closest to. Usually it's not the people who seem flawless. It's the people who felt human, the people who laughed naturally, the people who admitted when they didn't know something, the people who had goals but didn't pretend their life was perfect, the people who made you feel comfortable enough to stop pretending too. That's real connection. And there's something attractive about someone who doesn't constantly seek approval. Not because they don't care, but because they're not editing themselves every second. They're not asking, will this make me look good? They're asking, is this true to who I am? That energy feels powerful. A lot of people lose themselves trying to become what they think someone wants. If one person likes quiet people, they become quiet. If somebody likes confidence, they suddenly become louder. If somebody likes mystery, they act distant. If somebody likes independence, they pretend they need nothing. And eventually they become exhausted because they're managing an identity instead of living one. But real connection starts when you stop asking, how do I make someone addicted to me? And start asking, how do I show up honestly and let connection grow naturally? Because attraction built only on performance creates anxiety. You become afraid to disagree, afraid to change, afraid to disappoint, afraid people will discover the real you. But attraction built on authenticity creates freedom. You can speak honestly. You can express emotion. You can admit uncertainty. You can grow without fear. That doesn't mean oversharing everything immediately. Authenticity still has wisdom. It still has timing, but it means what you share is real. If you enjoy something, own it. If something matters to you, say it. If something hurts, communicate it. If something makes you excited, show it. Stop treating personality like a job interview. People connect with energy more than perfection. And another thing people miss, authentic people create emotional permission. When somebody sees you being comfortable with yourself, they stop feeling pressure to perform too. They become more honest, they open up, they trust more. That's where closeness begins. Not when two perfect people meet, but when two real people feel safe enough to stop pretending. And yes, being real means not everybody will choose you, but pretending guarantees that even if someone chooses you, they may not actually know you. That's not connection, that's maintenance. Real attraction becomes stronger over time because it isn't built on performance. It's built on recognition. Someone sees your humor, your thoughts, your imperfections, your habits, your dreams, and instead of feeling disappointed, they feel connected. That's powerful because the strongest emotional attachment doesn't happen when somebody believes you're perfect. It happens when they see who you really are and still feel drawn closer. That kind of connection doesn't need constant proving. It doesn't need endless chasing. It doesn't depend on keeping up an image. It grows because being around you feels easy, honest, and real. And in a world where so many people are trying to impress, the person who is comfortable being authentic becomes unforgettable.